Hello, hello, hello. Very good evening, everybody. This is Kavita Srinivasan with Nurture Lives, Converse with KS. And today in the studio, we have one of the most respected screenwriters of Bollywood. She does not need an introduction. And I am going to say that this is one of the most luckiest, most honorable, and I don't even know, I'm at loss for words to have Bhavani Iyer, the scriptwriter of Black Guzarish, Lutera, and the upcoming Sam Bahadur in the studio. Thank you so much, Bhavani, for having accepted this invite. Thank you.
Thank you, Kavita. It's my privilege to be here. I'm so honored and thank you for calling me.
It is a pleasure. So, I am today going to do something that is extremely different from what I have done in every show. One of the things that I always do is I introduce the guest, I talk about the guest, I give an entire write up about them, as to who they are. But today, I don't think I'm going to do it because if there is India, and if there are people in India and across the world who are watching us, Bhavani, you are not a name that people do not know. I think from one end of the world to the other end of the world, I think wherever Indians exist, wherever non Indians exist, your writing prowess, the kind of human being that you have been, the journey that you have traveled, and everything that you have done has been exemplary. And to say that I am honored, humble, privileged, and beyond all these words to be in front of you today and be able to ask you questions, I think is an honor. Thank you
It's
so
a
very much.
pleasure, Kavita. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So, what we are going to do is, I actually have 15 questions for you today. And through that is how I am going to introduce you to the audience, because I think that's one of the most beautiful ways to do it. So, we will start with my first question. My first question would be, let's start with Bhavani, the enigma, the dreamer, the writer, and that beautiful soul that has walked this journey to where she is today. I would like you to enlighten us on your journey from that young girl who used to dream, who used to sit with her comic books, read, and think of becoming somebody. Tell me that, please.
Kavita, I'm sure there is a lot that you already know. So, to all the listeners, I would like to share that Kavita is my cousin, my elder sis. We have spent a significant part of our childhoods, almost all our school vacations together. Kavita's mom is my Periama, my aunt, and she's probably one of the biggest influences also on all our lives. She was such a driven woman, so passionate and loved language. And I think that is something that all of us growing up had. We had parents who, I'm talking about Kavita, her siblings, me and my siblings. We had parents who loved to read, and we had parents who loved the written word, who had books. We grew up with a lot of books. I remember the first thing that if Kavita and her brother and sister came to Bombay, or if I and my brothers went to Bangalore, we would first join a local library, because we used to bring books, and we used to sit and devour those books, and and wait for the next morning that we could go and get another book. So words were always a part of our expression while we were growing up too. Uh, I would write a lot. I remember, in fact, very vividly, Periyamma, Kavita's mom, who would love my handwriting. And I used to feel so happy that I think many a time I used to write a story just to show off my handwriting because I liked her to praise me. So a lot of my, need to write came from the fact that my dad, and this is something I've spoken about quite often. Dad would travel a lot because he worked in, he had a government job, and he needed to be in many places, and I would miss him a lot. And I remember Dad would tell me, why don't you write? And I remember this started from, I think, a very young age. I think I must have been about 7 or younger than that. And I would just write, and I would write perhaps gibberish initially, but then slowly it gathered form. I understood what it meant to tell a story, because Dad would constantly guide me. He would tell me, "Oh, why don't you write about this?" And if yours, I was also a very, I used to feel things very deeply as a young child. Uh, the death of a butterfly I would think, where would they go? And Dad would say, why don't you write about that? And I would write about the most, uh, anything that touched me, I would write. And that, I think, is how I have learned to uh, never find artifice in writing. I feel that that is the one place where I don't think it's just me. I think anybody, if you allow your pen to be dictated by your heart, you will always find truth in whatever you say. So I think that is where my most of my grounding and understanding of the writing and the written word and the power of language came from my childhood. And I think that is when I kind of decided that I would be a writer someday. I didn't know, that screenwriting was a profession. I wasn't, that we would hardly watch movies. I mean, when
Yes.
our elder brother would go for a Bond movie, we would all just hear the story because we were too little. We were not allowed to watch those movies, but we would hear those stories, and that's it. We never watched movies, so I never thought of screenwriting as a career. But I knew I wanted to write. I knew I wanted to tell stories, and life led me towards this almost without my knowledge. I didn't journey into this. I was led into this. So, which is why you know, I value everything. I value every opportunity that I get to tell a story, every movie that I am part of. To me, each and every one of them is a gift, and it's a gift from the universe, and I cherish it every single day.
And it shows, and by the way, you just revealed something that most of the world does not know, except for a few people who are close to me who know. As a matter of fact, most of the viewers do not know that we are sisters, and it is an honor and it is a privilege. And I have uh, definitely not revealed because I did not ever want you to want to take away the spotlight from you, and I always wanted the spotlight on you. So it's definitely an honor. Thank you for doing that, because now I don't know what else I have to face Bhavani Iyer ke bare mein. So my next question would be something very important, because I know that you have been through a lot of trauma, personally, health wise, otherwise. So where and how do you, because there are a lot of viewers out there who do not know uh, how to manage and how to sort of find themselves the strength. So how do you and how have you found the strength and courage to be able to be where you are?
Um, I feel one of the most significant decisions that I made about myself when I learned at a very young age that I had a illness which was, which could be uh, debilitating in a way, which could lead to a lot of, uh, you know, absence of any certainty of sorts, because uh, that's what to have to be diagnosed with bronchitis at the age of 7, severe and extreme asthma at the age of 10, tuberculosis at 14, and then cancer. It kind of shakes you, lymphoma. So it kind of shakes you and shapes you. And uh, it is up to you to decide that this is not going to define you. My illness,
Yes.
my ability to, my inability to do a few things because of this illness is not going to define me. I'm going to find new ways to define myself. If I cannot go out in the field and play sports, I'm going to find a book to read and write. If I'm not able to participate in, inter-school or intercollegiate athletics, I will participate in things to write. I was the editor of my college magazine. I was the editor of my school magazine. Uh, I would find. I told myself that I'll find different ways to introduce, strength and take back my narrative. And I think that is the only thing that we all need to do, because we have so much power within us. Sometimes I feel that we are able to harness or you know, fight or show, exhibit probably a very minuscule percentage of what we are actually capable of. So the only thing we need to do is just find our definition and let that lead our life and our decisions, and not let things that happen to us define us.
I love what you just said. Yes. One of the things that I think I have written and I've sent it across to you. We are born by chance. Our choices define us,
Yeah.
and
Ac-
that is so true. That is so true. The next question would be about Bollywood itself. So, in a very note, right? So, Bollywood works with references and connections, generally, right? That's what matters, and that's the way it is. You have to have a godfather. You need to have, introduction. How easy or difficult was it for you to maneuver this maze, so to say?
uh, I think I was very fortunate. A lot of people, uh, when they learned that my first film was black, a lot of people, kind of called me out for my supposed privilege. That, oh, what's the big deal? Your first film was with Sanjay Bansali. But the fact is that yes, I accept that that was a privilege, but I worked hard to get that privilege also, because I. So things in the way things work in Bollywood, it's not easy to get your foot in the door at all. And you need to know people, you need to have contacts, like you said. You need to know, the right people who will recognize you. And especially if you have no background. I have not studied writing. I'm not a trained writer. I haven't gone to film school to study screenwriting. In fact, the first time I read a book on screenwriting was probably, after I decided, after Sanjay said that, I would like you to write this film for me. And I just
Wow.
read the book out of a need to understand what it is. But I knew that also it is a arrogance of youth. You feel you can do anything. There is no, you have no fear or
Fear.
thing. There's no awe over anything. So I think it was a lot of that also. But the way I'll tell you my journey worked out is I was in advertising while I was while I was doing my graduation. As an undergrad, I was working as a trainee copywriter in a ad agency. Got very bored with
Okay.
that because copywriting is all about minimalism, and I'm a maximalist. I can't. I hate words. I like to write 400 words when you need 40 words, and advertising was just not the place for me. So although interestingly, a couple of ads that I had worked on, I kind of created those ads, and the copy for those ads, and they were PSAs, public safety and advertising, and they won
Mhm.
a couple of awards too. But I was not very
Wow.
happy doing what I was doing. So I decided to. So when I graduated, and then I saw this ad in the newspaper. Times of India used to have those ads. I don't know if they still do, like those wanted ads. And there was an ad for sub editor's post in Magna Publishing for Stardust magazine. So I was like, for Showtime magazine. So I thought that, it sounded very important, sub editor. So I thought I'd like to try this. And I sent in my application. I was called for an interview and I got the job. And it was only later that I realized sub editing means, being a sub editor means you have to sub copy, which is read and like a proofreader. And I was so, but I was very happy because I was reading large texts and volumes of text. And I would write, I would rework things and I would write it in my own way, for whatever copy I would get. And the editor at that time found that very interesting and asked me to do a couple of interviews. And that's how my career started. And within, like, I think 3 or 4 months of me being in Magna, I became the editor of Stardust magazine, first assistant editor, and then within a couple of months again the editor of the magazine. But I believe that that is because I was at the right place at the right time, because there was this .com boom and everybody had quit the magazine to join these .com companies which were giving them a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I was the person left standing, and they said, okay, let's tell her to get this done. So, but I really enjoyed it. But again, after I have I have a very low threshold of boredom. So I get bored of things very quickly. So within a year or so, I got bored of making, film actors and, people sound more interesting than they were, because one of the interesting things about our industry is that, uh, at least back then when I was a journalist, articulation is not very a key trait that most actors possess. So I would need to
Yes.
write them in a different way than they express themselves in order to make them sound interesting. And I was getting a little bored. I thought, okay, if I am doing this, I might as well get into writing fiction. But during all of this, I was also writing, these short stories. I would walk around with this journal in my bag, and I would, whenever I had to
I
wait for
remember.
a meeting, yeah, you would, yes, I would write, story or something. And Anurag Kashyap, who was a wonderful writer, he had a couple of films which were out then. He read some of my work and he said, "Why are you, not writing for films?" And I said, "I didn't think I can." He said, "Of course you can." And he introduced me to his friend Vikram Motwani. Vikram is the director of Lutera, and Vikram at that time had
Lotera, yeah.
assisted. Yeah, Vikram had assisted Sanjay on Devdas, and Devdas had just released and gone to Cannes and all of that. And Sanjay was looking to make his next film. And Vikram said, "Would you like to? Sanjay would like to meet you." And I said, "Okay." And it was a very interesting. Do we have time for this? Would you like me to go into?
Yes, yes, yes. Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. So my first meeting with Sanjay was a very interesting one, because Sanjay is a very passionate person. He's driven by emotions. He is. I think all the great artists are like that, and Sanjay has this reputation of being difficult or whatever. But I like to see it as somebody who's passionate, who feels things very deeply, and in a lot of ways I understand it because I also operate that way. So I think something had gone
Yes.
wrong when I was meant to meet him, and he was furious. And I called him. I was meant to call him at XM, whatever, I think 11 o'clock or something, and to fix a time for the meeting. And I called him, and his cordless didn't have batteries or something. I called on the landline, and he threw the phone, and I thought, oh, maybe I got disconnected. And then I said, okay, forget it. Then I got a call again, and on my mobile, tells me, "I'm sorry, I'm having the shittiest day. Do you want to meet today, or do you want to keep it for another day?" So I said, "I'm free today, but whatever you want to do." So he said, "Okay, fine. Where do you stay?" And I lived like 5 minutes away from his house. So he said, "Oh, just come over." And he said, "But I just want to tell you, we may meet for just 5-10 minutes, and I'll fix a time and we'll meet properly another." I said, "Sure, that sounds good." And I went to meet him, and it so happened that we both were wearing the same color. and we were both. I was carrying a bag which was very similar to one that he had, and
Okay.
he said, "Okay," and we sat and we began talking. And I he the half an hour that he was meant to spend with me turned into over 4 hours, and we kept
Wow.
talking about everything under the sun. Yeah, and I mean, he then at the end of the meeting he asked me that he said, "I want you to write for me, and I want you to write my next film." And I said, I can't write song and dance. I don't understand how to write song and dance. So, will you be able to? So it's again, like I said, the arrogance of youth. I said, will you be able to make the kind of film that I will write? So he said he was he. I think he found me very amusing, and Sanjay to this date remains one of my dearest friends, like a 4 a.m. friend almost. And I mean, we reach out to each other in times of personal loss and any heartbreak or grief. I mean, we may not be there for each other when we are celebrating the good times, but when something happens, like if he lost his dog recently, I lost my dad recently, and we always reach out to each other during
Yeah.
these times. So Sanjay, I think at that time found me very amusing. I was also very young, and he said, "I have, I want to make two. There are two subjects that I have in mind. One is a film based on the life of Helen Keller, and the other is a remake of Balika Badhu." And I went, "Balika what?" So he said, "All right, so it is out." Because like, I hadn't watched too many films, so I didn't know. I had no context to these masterpieces. I mean, Balika Badhu is such a lovely, such a beautiful film that was made in the 70s, but I had no clue about 70s or 80s. But I didn't know about these. I didn't know about the big films, so forget the small films. So, or these, I don't mean small films, I mean independent cinema. So I told him. So he said, "Okay, so that's out. So what about Helen Keller?" I said, "I love Helen Keller's life." And I said, "Have you read this play by William Gibson?" And he was like, he said, "Hang on." And he went to his desk and he pulled out, and that's the book he wanted me to read and wanted me to, pick the story off from. Eventually, we
Wow.
couldn't make it Helen Keller's story because we didn't the rights were an issue and all of that. So he said, we'll need to fictionalize, within a week of my beginning work. He said, we'll need to fictionalize it, and I said, oh, that's even more fun. So I said, we just retain the the special nature of Helen Keller's character, of her being visually impaired and uh, deaf and blind. And we then make it. I said, I would like to make about the relationship of Helen and her teacher. And I said, and I would like the teacher to be a man. And he said, oh, really? He said, don't you think a woman would be interesting? I said, yes, but, exploring the relationship between a student, a female student, and a female teacher can only reach up to a particular point. I said, but if it is a male teacher, then so many definitions of a man-woman relationship. And I hate definitions. I hate the construct of society which labels relationships as, oh, this is, brother and sister, friends. In India, we have this thing, tum to meri behan jaisi ho, tum to mere bhai jaise ho. No, it doesn't need to be that. It doesn't need to have any, relationship
Attack title. Yeah.
construct to it. So I said it would be very interesting for me to see the journey of this relationship where a young girl who is like barely 5 years old meets a teacher, and this teacher becomes someone so significant and relevant in her life that from teaching her what words mean to helping her become a graduate to helping her understand and navigate life's relationships, and to even being the person who introduces her to what physical intimacy is via a kiss. I said, that to me sounds so fascinating. And so he said, okay, this is it, go for it. So, yeah, so that's how Black happened. I can see that someone has asked a question about
Yeah.
the right.
Bushra actually happens to be a very good friend, and she has got a special child. And the question is very apt.
Oh, that's wonderful. I hope this answers your question. So I also thought that it would be very, it's very important to, teachers are so big in our lives. I had a wonderful teacher of English who actually inspired me and encouraged me so greatly to keep writing. When I was in school, she would read out my essays. We used to have English composition back in the day when we were in school,
Hmm.
and I would write compositions about. I used to love writing essays and compositions, and she would read out my essays to the whole class. And I remember once I had. She's still Mrs. Malik. She was our school teacher. She still remembers this and brought this up to me when I spoke to her a few years ago. I had written an essay in I think in my 10th standard prelims, uh, and the topic was autobiography of a building. And I had written the autobiography of a building that has collapsed in an earthquake. So I was that building. I have collapsed. There is an earthquake which has resulted in my fall, and there is a child who's trapped under me, and I am holding the child until rescue and help arrives. And she says
Wow.
that it was, yeah, it was quite. I am also quite astonished at how my mind worked back then. Also, so she says that I cannot forget that, and she asked me to hold on to that, to that composition of mine. And she said, "I would like to keep this with me." Is that okay? I said, "Oh, certainly." So yeah, I love writing. I feel that teachers especially have the reason I love writing this much is because my teacher uh, told me that I had two great teachers, my dad and Mrs. Malik, both of whom, told me that I could do what I wanted to do because this is what I wanted, this is what I loved. So I wanted to show this relationship of a teacher and a student and the space that teachers can occupy in our lives and how teachers can guide us. So that is why, to me, Rani's character, that is Michelle McNally's character in Black, eventually teaching the words back to her teacher who has lost his memory due to Alzheimer's. That was the coming of a full circle,
Yes.
which to me was very significant and very important. So
Yes.
yeah, that was what I wanted to do with that film. And I remember at that time a lot of people. Uh, so my boyfriend Binoy, he is a photographer, and when that film released, he was at a shoot with a bunch of these very action kind of film superstars. And one of them said, "Oh, this film is not going to do anything because it's going to flop. Who's going to watch, uh, you know, uh, a story which has Sanjay Bansali film without songs? Who's going to watch?" And within the first few days, I remember Sanjay telling me that it is slow to pick up. But then once the word of mouth and people started talking about the film, to this date, I have people coming to me and telling me about among all my films, even though I mean Razi would have just released or 24 would have just released, but people talk to me about Black and about how it has
Yes.
impacted, just like Bushra, has spoken of. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was the journey
I
into
think it
my
was the
first.
same. Black was a movie I think that will always remain with me because I think I bawled for hours together
Oh,
watching that movie. I literally, yeah, because it touched my soul, and I think it was a beautifully written film. One of the things that I always am in awe about you is, Bhavani, that irrespective of how much you have achieved, how much you have grown personally in your career, you're being such a well respected, well known personality. I know people respect you very, very much. There are chapters written about you in college books, and with all that, I believe it has a lot to do your humble attitude. I love that about you, and I think a lot has to do with the upbringing, how dad was and how he has brought you up. But among all that, because you are who you are, having been so well read and having been a person who always, even now, constantly upgrades herself. I know how much you upgrade yourself, and I also know that you write 12 hours a day, and you pen it down, and then transcribe it. And now that's a lot of dedication. Um, I think that your experience, this particular journey of being so well read, having been brought up, and then reading, do you think that is exactly what it is that is very important for children today? Because I have done that with my kids, but your take actually for the audience, I would love to know.
I think recently I had spoken at this Rotary Club event where people wanted to. I mean, I was being, they were very kind enough to felicitate me about my writing and my work, and many of them wanted to know how what made me think that writing could be a paying profession, or because even today a lot of people think of, when you think of your career for your children, or what your children are going to grow up and become, you think that arming them with education which would lead them to become either an engineer or a doctor or a data analyst, or
Yes,
these
the
software or
normal jobs.
yeah, they think that that is where you are doing an MBA, that is where the money lies. And it is so interesting because uh, I don't think we, either you or me, in our family have been brought up with the thought of uh, earning, money being a driving force in deciding what your profession is going to be, or what your calling is going
Yes,
to be. So I feel that
yes.
what reading does, which I know both Sheetal and Shreyas, your children, lovely, my favorite, my sweet little niece and nephew, not so little, but
Thank
in my heart they will always be babies.
Exactly.
So what I think what they have is a worldview which is only driven by the reading that they have done. If you read, I
Yes.
have my brother's daughter who is all of 12, 13 now, uh, is always with a book in her hands. And I think what that does is,
Yep.
and she reads in English, she reads in German, she reads in French, she reads in, she's been trying to read in Hindi. She doesn't live in India, so Hindi is a little tough for her. But I feel that what reading does at this very delicate age where your thoughts are being formed and being influenced, if the influence is not just your immediate surrounding, where people with probably bigoted views or short-sighted ways of looking at things, or skewed perspectives, agenda-driven narratives, if those are the only influences that are coming at your children, how horrid would that be? Because they are going to
Yeah.
only mimic, and that is what children do. I mean, our society, we were children once, and we would echo whatever we are listening around us. But if you have a book in your hand, written by Justin Gardner, who's sitting somewhere in Scandinavia and writing about Maya, and you read that and you understand that, oh, there is a completely different way of looking at things. I uh, I
Yes.
mean, this is such a small and simple example, but my niece and nephews' friends in India, they laugh at some of the names of their friends in Germany. And so my niece and nephew, they have Turkish friends, and they have German friends, and their names are not like our names, and they laugh at those names.
Yeah.
And my niece and nephew are those friends, and my niece and nephew can't understand. They're like, why is he
Why
laughing?
they're laughing? Yeah.
Isaac asked me. Isaac said, I told this guy about my friend Istefan, and Istefan and he's saying Istri wala. But what does that mean? That guy was trying to mock the name Istefan. But that is also his upbringing. No, that child is not involved. It is that child's upbringing, because his parents do not, probably parents or the people around him who are in charge of bringing him up, they do not understand what it is to be inclusive, to understand that there are differences in this world. And how else will that kid
Yes.
know unless he's exposed to it? So if you are not able to, as a parent, travel much or whatever, put a book in your.
Yes. 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 And that is something that I think, we have always had. And something that I tell every single person, instead of giving them a mobile phone in their hand, kindly give them a book when they start the day, because that's what opens up their mind to the world out there, because the world is an oyster.
Yes,
Parenting is a responsibility, and if we cannot do it right, we don't have a right to be parents. Such a beautiful way of, uh, I mean, as I said, every single question people are going to be in audio, because I am seeing such great comments coming for you. Uh, so they're saying witnessing Bhavani's expertise in this field is absolutely incredible. What stands out even more is her humility and genuine attitude, such an inspiration. You are indeed.
thank you.
You
Thank
are
you. Yes,
indeed. And one of the most important things, now that we're talking about your niece and nephew, and how you are, and the fact that you just revealed out to the world, what is very important is relationships play a very huge role in human beings' life, right? And yet people are not able to manage it, or they're not able to manage it. They're able to manage it, or they're not able to. Your insight on this, I would like, because I am aware how important and how beautifully you nurture, nourish every single relationship of yours, and you preserve the relationship, whether it is friends, whether it is animals, or it is people. And I know the bond that you have kept with me, and how you have accepted me, even though I was a single mom and everybody else ditched me. And I know that you were the one person who said, my door is always open for you. And I can't love you enough for that. So your
there
insight
is.
definitely on relationships plays a huge role.
Uh, I this is how I function. I don't know whether it is anything I do consciously. Uh, to me, I have suffer from tremendous social anxiety, and this is something I've had all my life. But we have grown up not knowing our handicaps or our illnesses, because we've grown up in a time we've been told to soldier on and man up,
Yeah.
and whatever your issues are, I mean, it is not for the world to know. But today I realize that I mean, getting on anywhere, even if I have to go for a meeting, I have to amp myself. I mean, forget anything else. I have to come on this evening from 6:30 onwards. My heart has been pounding, because I mean, I know it is with you. I know it's my sister, it's my cousin, it's my lovely Kavita. I don't have to worry. But it is just what it is. So, uh, for someone like me, people are so important, because I think it is the love and the kindness of people that helps me navigate through my anxiety. And I also, I think one of the things that I have learned from my dad and my mom is that you accept people for who they are. I think a lot of times what our conditioning does is that it makes us believe that a friend or a relative or an in-law needs to be a particular way. If they don't fit those parameters, if the girl that I have married and brought into my house doesn't wear a sari and doesn't touch my mother's feet, she is not a good person. I think or she is not right. I think these are the judgments that we hold on for people, which kind of make us somewhere undermine people or devalue them and not hold on to them. I feel I've seen my dad, who was an absolute introvert, tell my mom, who's an absolute extrovert, go. Go out and meet your friends. My dad would join her 1 out of 5 times, but those other 4 times he would tell her, "You must go. You must meet your friends. You must do because uh, my mom, your Chitti, is
Yeah.
she you know thrives on
She's a
people. She's one of
firecracker.
I didn't catch that. I
She's
lost
a
you for a minute.
firecracker.
Like, oh yes,
She's a
absolutely
firecracker.
that. Yeah. So she thrives on people. Her energy comes from the people around her. So she needs people. And my dad, like me, uh, needs to withdraw when he's had an interaction with too many people because our energy is sapped by people. But the thing is, they understand each other. My mom would never drag him out. She would never tell him that, oh, why aren't you coming with me? My dad would never say, don't go out, stay at home with me. So I've seen that. So to me, I feel that one of the most important things uh, about keeping people in your life is to accept them for who they are and love them for that. Love them
Yeah.
because they are the way they are. Because I think a lot of
Yes.
their quirks. It is so charming, things different people being different way. Otherwise, if we are all the same, how boring would life be, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Definitely. Next question is very important. Your love for animals, birds, everything, that does not speak, people who cannot speak to, by the way, you know, uh, anybody in pain, anybody in need. Oh my gosh. And I think that's how, by the way, Shreya said, oh, she likes dogs and cats, then she's a great human being because anybody who loves animals is a great human being. That is what Shreya said. My God, I know that you have, I think, what, 3 dogs, 5 cats, and then you feed the world of cats and dogs and birds and God knows.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
I love
what is that secret that,
I love them. I think I love their as I grow older, I see a certain corrosion of innocence, a corrosion of authenticity and realness and truth in people. And animals never lose that. Animals always are the same. Their purity is so intact, and I think uh, I don't do as much for them as they do for me. Because they give me that purity to uh, imbibe and to learn from and to somewhere remind myself of. So it's just that I just love what they do to me more than me doing for them. I really don't think I do anything for
I totally agree with you because I think, although because I have the allergies to cat and dog dander, I remember Shreyas did bring Gino home and I fell in love with Gino. And when he left with him, I was ending up sitting and crying. So I think
them.
somewhere they grow on you.
Yes, yes.
They grow
I
on
mean,
you. I think that is what it is. They grow on you.
anybody, you will. There is no way you can't fall in love with them.
Yes, yes. So your attitude, overall, like when it comes to, I think it has a lot to do with that too, because you're very non-judgmental. You love people unconditionally. I've seen that about you. I mean, I remember when there was a Ukraine war happening or something else somewhere. I know that you had an entire bunch of friends. You would, silently do your thing of raising money. Or during the Corona, I am aware that you actually put up refrigerator in the compound and anybody can actually come and have food, and I think that continues to today. And then I also know that during Ramzan, when there is a rosa happening and somebody and you feed them, and that's one of the most beautiful things about you. And I think all these things you see in animals too, because people who don't ask things because they have self-respect, and animals who cannot express themselves, both of them need compassion. And I think that is basically what makes you such a beautiful, beautiful human being. My next question would be about, I know that we both share almost quite a lot of common views on women empowerment, or women being the agent of change, rather, as to how much of a strength a woman can be. And I think there are a lot of viewers who are women. the concept of pseudo empowerment, which consists of male bashing, is something that I don't agree with, and I know that we both talk about it. So your take on women and how they need to be the agent of change, because I believe that we can do so much, because we are involved in upbringing of children, for heaven's sake. It starts from there. So we actually build characters. So I would definitely love to hear about that. Yeah.
Oh, you know, again, I think it goes back to upbringing. Uh, I've grown up with brothers, and not once have I ever, I mean, uh, honestly, growing up, because it was so, everything was so equal in our house. When I grew up and I started realizing that, oh, women are not treated as equals, it was, I needed a lot of time to come around to understanding and comprehending that, because I didn't know that this kind of thought process existed. Also, I think, South Indian families somewhere, somehow are a little more, probably because of the matriarchal system that exists, or in some parts of South India, or it's probably a little bit of the men not being as testosterone driven as they would be in the north, or the rest of the country. I think probably that has to do with the way women are not really as subjugated in South Indian families. I may be wrong about it entirely. It may probably be just our home, but I don't, because I didn't grow up thinking that, being told that I am in any way inferior to my two brothers. I never felt that way. I never felt that there is any reason for me to fight for my rights, because I thought, of course, I have rights. I had taken it for granted. And when I came into the real world, I
Yeah.
keep yeah. So I keep telling this to my brothers, that dad did not, he did not train us for the real world, man. I mean, because both the three of us, we struggle, because we are so idealistic, and we are so, we think that this is the way the world operates. And even today, we cannot understand a lot of things, and, the agendas that people have and so on. And especially about, women empowerment. I believe that, I believe that people who talk a lot about this, uh, it's a lot of empty talk. They don't really mean it. I hate this. I mean, I don't like the word woke, but this woke thing that people have about, saying things, but not really meaning them. That really gets my goat, because I think, my
Yes.
housekeeper's husband, who tells her that, who keeps food ready for her when she comes back home because she's tired, and he's come back from his driving job earlier than her. I think he is a feminist. He doesn't need to be woke. He doesn't need to say the things that, all these so-called feminists, man for woman, I am a male feminist and all of this. They say all these things, but I don't think, they practice it with as much truth and authenticity as this man who cooks for his wife. Uh, I have another, I had another lady who would work for me, and her husband would press her feet because she had this feet, she couldn't stand on her feet for too long and it would hurt. He would, every night, however tired he was, she would say, Didi, wo to mera pair daba ke hi sote hain." And I think those are the agents of change. Those are the men giving their wife true agency. I must tell you about this another thing. My cook's husband, my she works in a few houses. She's an incredible cook, and her husband works in a company. And he was like, uh, "तुझे शर्म नहीं आती बीवी का बीवी का कपड़ा धोता है?" And he said, "तुझे शर्म नहीं आती बीवी का पैसा लेता है?" So he was so clear, because some guy told him that, aren't you ashamed of taking your wife's money, wife's washing your wife's clothes when she's working? And he said, aren't you ashamed of taking your wife's money, because you make her work, and in homes as a domestic help or whatever, and you're happy to take her money, but you won't work for. So I thought that was so progressive. I think these are the people who really embody and are the actual, feminists. And I think we just need to look for them. The most important thing that we all need to do is bring up our sons to believe that women are in no way inferior. And I would say to probably,
They need to be respected.
yes, exactly, to know that, like, I have friends who have told their sons who are dating girls and all, that if tomorrow anything happens, I'm going to stand with the girl. I mean, I love that,
Yeah.
because shows that
Yes.
you're not as important as your ideology. So I love that, and I think it's very easy to do. I think just forget about, and for women, I feel that we need to look for allies who aren't just talking the talk but walking the talk. That is what we need to be able
Oh,
to.
yes.
Women have an inbuilt
Yes.
bullshit meter. We can read through, we can see. Yeah, that is what I feel.
Oh,
We
believe
just
me,
need to.
I'm seeing a lot of it over here. I do see that because walking the talk is the most difficult thing, right? So I walk the talk, you walk the talk. We like walking the talk, and yes, exactly what we told Shreyas. I will have you in jail if you make a mistake, and I will not bail you out. And I think as mothers, we have a responsibility to teach our sons to be better human beings. Okay, later, all our children, frankly speaking, can we look at human souls and human beings rather than defining them as a male or a female? Because the wrong from both of them is a wrong. A wrong is a wrong is a wrong, and a right is a right is a right, irrespective of who they are. And I think we need to bring up children as children. Although I know that you have been through quite a lot and things like that. So mental health and mental well-being, I always believed that counseling, where we cannot be there, is important. And I think addressing that as an issue, whether it is a child that is going through adolescence, or whether that is an adult going through their hormonal changes, it might be premenopausal, postmenopausal, it might be childbirth, pre-childbirth, is very important. Your take on mental well-being or seeking that help, you know what do you think? Because in our countries, generally, it is like pagal ho gayi hai.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
gone crazy. I remember having to take Sheetal to a counselor, and I was admonished. And it was only one sitting because she needed that. And after that, look where she is today. But she needed that because she was not comfortable to speak about something that had to do with the father, because she's like, what will my mother think?
yeah.
And I think that is an issue all of us need to address and accept. So your take on mental well-being and counseling, and how do we address?
It is most important. Like I was saying, I myself, I mean, my social anxiety, which I've lived with practically my entire life, had I been diagnosed, I would have probably been able to handle it better. I would not be so petrified every time I have to walk into a room full of people. I think counseling is so important. If anybody needs it, I think it's like going to a doctor to check your, fever and cold. You need that help. You need professional help to understand. You're not a psychologist, or you're not a psychiatrist to understand the way your mind works. What are the reasons why you are responding in a particular way to whatever stimuli is around you? I think it is so important for anybody to understand the gravity of mental health as an issue, especially today, because we live in a world of such stress. And I don't think it was like this when we were growing up.
No.
Young adults, teens, and tweens these days, they have to deal with so much, and they have to be prepared for so much. I think, why wouldn't you want to, just like you would arm their arsenal with studies and information, why wouldn't you arm them with professional help in order to understand themselves better? When we were 14 or
Yes.
15, we all through this. Who am I?
Yes.
If we
Yes.
had help in understanding that, how much more sorted we would be. So I think it is unquestionably important. And mental health is probably a discussion that every family needs to have between themselves, with their children and younger, family members, friends, anybody. Just look around, and because in my profession, especially being in the film industry, we a large portion of us who are part of the film industry don't belong to the city. We have families which are elsewhere, so we are all navigating this alone.
Yeah.
And when you're alone, and if you don't have anybody to bounce things off or speak your heart to, it's the number of suicides, and the number of people who have taken
Yeah.
uh, to addiction and issues. It's heartbreaking, and it is so, it could have been avoided.
Yes.
It is so heartbreaking. So I feel it is priority number one.
Very much. Very much. Thank you so very much, because I think that every viewer that's going to watch this is going to take a whole lot of things out of this particular, show of ours, I'm sure. The next question I would come to is your book, In On. My God, what a beautifully written book. And I know that you probably, I think, had it on your desk for 10 years.
Yeah.
Congratulations on a book so well written. I'm looking forward to more from you, by the way. So I'm going to wait for and the question would be, since you love writing so much, and I know you have, I think, 45 plus scripts that you have written and kept that are not that have not become a movie yet. So anytime soon that Bhavani will get into direction, is that going to happen? And if it does, what would be the subject that would be your favorite to start your first movie with, if you're going to direct?
So, a lot of writers in our industry choose to become directors because, it gives you a greater control over your material and so on. I have been very fortunate to work with directors who have understood my vision, who have honored my vision, and who have respected it and not really tampered with it in any manner. I have never felt the need to, oh, I need to make a film because my whatever I'm writing is being butchered. That's not happened. But having said that, there is a script that I have written. It is actually the first script that I ever wrote, and it is a story about death, which is something that fascinates me, and I hope that someday I will be able to make that into a movie. But I don't know when
Wow.
that. But I do know that that will happen. That is a film that is a script I hold very close to me. I will not give it to anybody, and I hope that someday I will be able to make that into a movie. It's
And I
called
will
Purnaviram.
definitely wait for that. What is it called?
Purnaviram.
Ah, Purnaviram. I've heard you speak about it. I'm going to wait for that because it'll be a very interesting movie, because both of us are fascinated by death. So, um, what is that one thing? Because this is something that we do, and you have already revealed that one thing that people do not know about us, rather. But what is that one thing that the world does not know or should know about Bhavani, the person?
About
Because
me as a
everybody
person.
reads poets and everything else. What is it that people do not know about Bhavani, the person?
What do they want to know? I think there's a lot that they don't know because I choose to curate my my life very meticulously. I'm a bit of a control freak, and I only share, whether it is on my socials or with friends, and even with close friends actually. I only share what I want them to know. So I am very I hold back. I hold a lot of myself back to myself because I think I'm a lot of work in progress. I am a little I feel a little embarrassed about a few things that I uh, think. I feel, oh, why am I not mature enough to be more this way and all of that. So the one thing I think people should know, I can tell you two things which are a little unimportant, not unimportant actually, which are not just about myself. One is that if I were not a writer, I would be in design. I would probably be an interior designer or a fashion designer because I love both. I love
And a
interiors and I
fabulous
love,
one.
sorry.
And you would have